forgetting here that any differences arising out of the agreement must be settled by arbitration. And arbitration where, Madam Speaker? Not here in Antigua and Barbuda, but in London. And arbitration proceedings are very expensive. The Honourable Attorney General will tell you so. Why should we expose taxpayers' money to go to London and tie ourselves up in arbitration when we have an investor on our doorstep willing, ready and able to invest 1.3 billion Eastern Caribbean dollars into this country and get on with the project? So let us cut our losses. Let us take our losses now. Let us proceed with the project. You don't want to send a message out there to future foreign investors that Antigua is an unfriendly investor climate country for new prospective investors coming into your country. You want to send a positive message. And Madam Speaker, most importantly, the consolidated fund can't afford any more drain on it by high legal fees. And the Antigua government will have to retain counsel in London and eminent QC and arbitrators. And the government is fully aware of this provision. And the Attorney General is fully aware of this provision in the agreement. Who is going to suffer the losses? It is the ordinary poor people of this country that will have to pay for those lengthy and costly proceedings. And I'm saying, Madam Speaker, that we have another option. We have an option to go with Alan Stanford, allow him to proceed with the agreement that he signed with Dato-Tan. It may hurt us that Dato-Tan is getting so much money. We may feel that he made a windfall, he profited on our land. That may be so. But look at the bigger picture. Look at the bigger picture. The bigger picture. Honourable Member for St. Phil, I learned very well at his feet. And I'm proud to say so. But Madam Speaker, we ought to look at the bigger picture. And the bigger picture here today is not about taking away the lands. And by the way, you have to pay the fullers, you know. And if you go with Alan Stanford's proposal, you'll have $30 million, the Minister of Finance, my learned friend, will have 30 million EC dollars in the consolidated fund every year committed from Alan Stanford, and we can use that to pay the fullers, even if it's over 2 or 3 or 4 years. The Fuller family. What do you mean, Chops? The Fuller family have gotten judgment, and your Attorney General have acknowledged the judgment, and have agreed and have given an undertaking. The Attorney General have given an undertaking that the Honourable Minister of Finance will make provision in the estimates later this year with the new budget coming out with the Honourable Minister of Finance to make provision to pay the fullers off. They have to be paid. We compulsory acquire the land from them. And the Constitution says when you compulsory acquire land, you have to pay fair market value in a reasonable time.
On the Land Acquisition Act.
Under the Land Acquisition Act. Thank you, Council. And a fair and reasonable time is more than 6 years. Well, I am here to say what I think is just and fair. And I'm saying that the fullers own the land, they've gotten judgment, and they have to be paid. And where are you going to get $30 million or $34 million to pay the Fuller family from? If you don't have an investor like Alan Stanford, who is committed to paying into the Treasury 3 million Eastern Caribbean dollars monthly, nearly $30 million a year. You can use 10 million out of that, 5 million out of that, whatever the Minister of Finance deems fit and necessary and appropriate. He will come back, don't worry. He will come back. But Madam Speaker, I think it's important that I go on record and it be recorded that we did try also and be actually gazetted notice to take back and be told at the time that he was in default and to terminate the agreement. So it's not that we didn't do anything. So we were never in cahoots with Dato-Tan Kehok. But when we realized that Alan Stanford came forward and he said he was interested, and he've already entered into negotiations and agreement with Dato-Tan Kehok to purchase the lands at Ghana Island, surrounding islands and lands, and he's willing to start the project within 6 months and pump all these hundreds of millions of dollars into the economy, we said we will turn a blind eye because the development up there is bigger than any of us. And Madam Speaker, I think that we are making a grave mistake today by repealing these incentives. It sends a bad message. Also about the whole notion of continuity in government. I mean, not because one government changes today and another government comes in. You can come into Parliament willy-nilly and revoke concessions and incentives. Which investor is going to want to come? I mean, tomorrow you may say, oh, I want to take away the power plant from Hadid. I don't want him to have the government complex. And I'm going to Parliament and I'm going to take away the security that he has under the agreement. No way. I am saying to you, Madam Speaker, that government is continuous. You cannot just come one day because government has changed and start revoking. You want to break CTV monopoly? That is your right as the executive to break CTV monopoly. But you have to do it with damages. You have to pay compensation. You have to pay compensation. You can't take away a right that a business has or granted willy-nilly. And the executive, well then, I mean, we are running a circus in this country. It's not serious government. No, but whether it was right or wrong, I'm not arguing that. I'm saying that you can't willy-nilly go to cabinet or to Parliament and revoke concessions and incentives without thinking it through, without thinking about the serious repercussions that it can have for future investors coming into the country. That is my contribution, Madam Speaker. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. I recognize a member from St. Mary's South.
Madam Speaker, I don't understand this. On one hand, you're saying that they were planning to take away the land from Dayton because he violated the agreement. And now that we're taking the land back, we wrong. They were going to take the land back from him. Why? He violated the agreement that is signed with him. And now we're doing it. We shouldn't do it.
I recognize a member for St. Peter.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I rise today in this honorable House to make my contribution to this Freedom of Information Act 2004. And let me say at the outset, Madam Speaker, that I heard the Honorable Prime Minister say that this is an important and historical day in the Parliament of this country. But I would also like to add my voice and to say that I disagree with you, Mr. Prime Minister. It is a very sad day in the history of this country. Madam Speaker, we are told that it is proposed that this Freedom of Information Act that we are about to pass today, that it gives persons and individuals the right to request information, legitimate information, from public bodies, government departments, provided that they declare that they have an interest or they are seeking to exercise or protect some interest, and they give the reasons why the information is asked or required. However, Madam Speaker, the Act does not give the person whose information is being sought an opportunity to answer any allegations, no matter how frivolous, vexatious, or malicious those allegations may be. I think that the Freedom of Information Act is a good thing. It has good intentions. But I think, Madam Speaker, that the government of the today is being disingenuous, being dishonest, by using this piece of legislation to come before the country today and say we are giving freedom of information to the citizenry of our country. We are doing what is right. We are doing what 28 years of previous Antigua Labour Party governments did not do. All that sounds good. All that is great. But be honest with the people of this country, Mr. Prime Minister. Give us the real reasons behind this act today. Tell us the real raison d'etre of this act. Okay, I'm not French. But, Madam Speaker, it does not give somebody whose information is being asked an opportunity